Megan got me into the nerd cluster. Those are good.
Nerd clusters are our go-to travel. There's also Greek
Yeah.
stack, like to run an airplane.
Bribery.
Well, we talked about this last time, that when you travel, it's whether or not bets
Yeah.
are off.
Yeah.
Oh, I want you to shut up, here's some licorice.
Travel with Andy, it's just kind of the same.
Look at on air like, hey Andy, what's up?
Yep, are we on air?
He loves it once in a while. I know he does.
Yeah, that's a. Yeah, clusters are good. I don't really, and now that clusters exist, I don't like nerds in the box
Yeah.
anymore,
Oh,
which
I
used to be one of my
Oh, you're
favorites.
for the nerds.
No.
Wait, are the clusters like truly a cluster of nerds?
It's a gummy, like a round gummy, and then it's got a
Do you
nerd,
remember like
nerd
the
coating in it.
nerd
Super good.
ropes? It's like they took the nerd ropes and cut them into little pieces.
You gotta give them a shot.
Okay, nerd ropes.
I'll bring you some.
Yes, we'll both have to try, because I don't know what that is either, and I don't know what a nerd rope is, and I just don't know what we've got on the
Do this.
Who knew it would have been such a thought-provoking question?
So the microphones are working.
All right, it is 7 o'clock.
Yep.
I will call our meeting in order. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we get into it, we have working microphones again tonight. Kudos to the team who helped make that happen. Let's all make sure that our microphones
Thank
are
you,
on
Brenda.
up here, please. Thank you. I know that that was a huge job, as was scurrying for the last couple of meetings, so thank you. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Councilmember Perchman,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Sayer. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, is anybody here for community comment this evening? Okay, we will move right on then to presentations and reports. We have the Carver County Transit and Mobility Study update from Ms. Rasp.
So Ella, correct, is coming up. So this is a partnership between Carver County and Southwest Transit related to looking at existing funding for transit and how that operates within the county. If you remember, this is a conversation that we had related to the use of Prime and how that would function, and we mentioned that the county had some funding. We had a conversation with Carver County and Eric at Southwest Transit, and so this was happening kind of in parallel. And I believe Eric is on this committee, I'm on this committee as well. And we had a rollout of this kind of to the community on survey work related to this study. That just went out late last week, and I connected with Ella, and because there's some pretty meaty stuff in here related to Carver, we asked if she could come out, so thankfully they were able to come out and present, because we wanted to give the council some good line of sight to this, as the community is gonna probably start really talking about the study and participation in it, and what that could mean for the future of transit in Carver. So with that, Ella, take it away.
Excellent.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members, for having me. I'm Ella Rasp, and I am a transportation planner with Stantec, presenting on behalf of Southwest Transit in Carver County on this Carver County Transit and Mobility Study this evening. We'll share tonight just some updates on the project goals, the process, and some of the scenarios we've started to develop for transit investments in the county. And we look forward to your input as city leaders. There we go. All right, so tonight's agenda, we're gonna do that project overview, and then we're gonna introduce these transit investment scenarios that we're putting out for public dialogue during this phase, and then we'll share a little bit of the next steps as well. Our goal here is just to give you a clear understanding of the study's direction and how it supports Carver County's overall mobility needs to engage your feedback. So first up, we'll walk through that project overview about the study and what our approach has been so far.
Can you move this just a little
Oh,
closer?
thank you so
back?
much, yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so about this study, the Carver County Transit and Mobility Study. Carver County and Southwest Transit have partnered up in order to address some of the growing mobility needs in the community. The study is also really going to build and explore these options for transit service improvements in Carver County to align with community priorities, to align with travel patterns, and ultimately the long-range planning goals for the community. And the recommendations developed through this study will help shape future transit investments through the City of Carver as well as across the rest of the county. The study's goals, we're working to assess the current mobility needs in Carver County, identify where there are transit service gaps that can be addressed over the next horizon of this planning study. We're going to work to identify and evaluate different solutions to address those mobility needs and plan for the funding that's coming to Carver County through the regional sales and use tax, and ultimately support future grant applications for other transit improvements. The engagement strategy has been a big part of how we're approaching this study, and we wanted to share a little overview here. We've already completed round 1 of engagement. This was the phase where we were focused on gathering initial input about community needs, about barriers to using the transit system. And we're currently in this round 2 of engagement, where we're soliciting feedback, showing where round 1 engagement helped us develop these transit service improvements, and then overall helping to build up enough input to inform a final recommendation. The next phase then will be round 3, and that's where we're going to be sharing out a final recommendation and communicating about the study's outcomes. A couple highlights from round 1 engagement that I can share with you. We were able to visit the Carver Community Market and engage with residents and transit riders at Carver Station there. A couple of the key themes we heard was a desire to use transit to connect to retail, service destinations within the communities. They want to see more connections between the downtowns of cities within Carver County, and an interest in airport shuttle service. We heard a lot about the way that residents value the flexibility and accessibility of transit options within the community. We also hosted an online rider focus group. This was an opportunity for us to hear from existing transit riders in Carver County, understand what their experiences have been. In that focus group, we heard about an interest in more service to Carver Station, including Route 695 and 698. In terms of on-demand service, we heard a desire to connect to some of the really fast-growing areas in Carver County, like Waconia, Victoria, Cologne, Carver, etc. And we also heard about a desire for reduced fares, and we'll note there that Southwest Transit does have a reduced fare program that is facilitated through the Met Council's Transit Assistance Program. So moving into the data analysis part of this study, we have been going through kind of a multi-step process of pulling in different data sources on population, travel demand, community connections to other transit and transportation modes. And that's been pulled together in this mobility and transit need analysis. There are really 2 sections of this analysis approach. One is focused on capturing community transportation needs, things like demographics, access to existing essential services in the community through transit, travel demand, and geographic isolation. So that pulls together the kind of need half of the equation. And then we take a look at what we've been calling deliverability. And those are things like connectivity into existing transit networks, alignment with future transit investments, operational efficiency, and support within the community for more transit service. This would provide us then all these factors pulled together, a basis for planning transit service investments that align both with local population needs and feasibility to operate those services. So the results of that analysis, this is probably best on the big screen with some of these small numbers here, but we've been seeing things kind of broken out into 4 categories. Overall top candidates, this is places where there's both high need and high deliverability scores. So communities like Chaska and Chanhassen scored high on both of those measures. City of Carver is in that green category where it scored maybe lower on overall transit need, but strong on deliverability with great connections to existing regional transit routes and operational efficiency potential. That means that, City of Carver as well as Victoria are places that our transit dollars will stretch further to serve more people, and that's something that will be really valuable to the investment approach. Ultimately, we're going to have to balance both need and deliverability in the investment strategy that's selected, but this is a little bit of the data behind some of those decisions.
Ella, with those numbers we're seeing, are they out of 100 on each, the deliverability and the?
Yes,
Okay.
Madam Mayor, that is a 100 points possible
Okay.
for both need and deliverability, so a total of 200 potential points.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Okay, so with that kind of background and foundation on the analysis, we can look into how we've been building out some scenarios to inform future investment in transit service. So we use the results from the mobility and transit need assessment to start to develop these recommendations for transit service solutions. We kind of use this map to highlight the different categories in a slightly different way from the chart on the past slide, where you see the dark green showing places where you have both high need scores and high deliverability scores in our analysis. So those are going to be places that we're going to want to gear the transit service solutions toward meeting both of those indicators, if you will. And then the blue, Victoria and Carver, that's where you see the lower need scores and high deliverability scores. And then the citrine in this screen color, the yellow, is the places where you're seeing high need scores and low deliverability scores. And then the white would be places that overall are scoring below average on both those score sets. But overall, our goal will be to spread investment throughout Carver County. So taking the results of the analysis and moving into service concepts, this is kind of an exercise of matching the qualities and the metrics that we see in each community to the right transit service style. So we're looking at, kind of multiple different services that could be included in future transit investments. It could be expanded fixed bus routes. It could be transit link dial-a-ride service. It could be Southwest Prime service expansion. So we're kind of trying out these different service styles to match with what the data is telling us about needs in the community. And then we're building these transit investment scenarios. So taking each of those pieces, putting them together into a package that is within the revenue expected from this sales and use tax. So our goal in this step is really to explore how we're going to allocate resources to meet the different needs across the county with the right types of service. So in looking into the many different scenarios we explored through this exercise, we narrowed it down to 3. And these are the 3 that we're bringing forward for community input and comment from leaders like yourselves. Scenario 1, we're calling kind of balanced investment, and that means we're focusing on areas, spreading investment across priorities and across communities. Scenario 2 is our high efficiency investment option, and that focuses on areas with highest ridership and the best network connections. And then scenario 3 is our high impact scenario, where we're looking to target communities with higher transportation needs with greater investment. All 3 of these scenarios are built around that revenue from the regional sales and use tax for transit that is coming to Carver County. So that's expected to be $1.5 to $2 million per year to support this investment. And all 3 of these investment scenarios spread that revenue across Carver County. Okay, so let's dive into each of them. Scenario 1, this explores that balanced investment approach, meaning that funding is spread evenly between service that prioritizes high impact service and high efficiency service. So it would expand Southwest Prime service hours in Chaska and Chanhassen. It would add a new service zone with limited hours for Southwest Prime in Waconia, It would expand the use of transit link circulators and increase transit link capacity countywide. Scenario 2, this is the high efficiency investment approach. So it has slightly more emphasis toward that services that stretch our transit dollars further to serve more people and more travel demand within Carver County. Similar to Scenario 1, it expands Southwest Prime service hours in Chaska and Chanhassen, expands the use of transit link circulators, and increases transit link capacity countywide. However, the unique feature for this service scenario is that it creates a Southwest Prime connection zone that would allow riders to book trips at specific times that could travel between Norwood Young America, Waconia, and Victoria. And then finally, Scenario 3 uses that high impact investment strategy, meaning it prioritizes high need areas with more frequent circulator services, including 5-day per week circulator service in New Germany, Norwood Young America, and Hancock Township. You'll see that for the City of Carver, there's not a huge difference between these scenarios. All 3 of these scenarios would lead to Carver County starting to contribute toward fulfilling a funding gap to support existing Southwest Prime service in the City of Carver. And so that funding gap is currently covered by Southwest Transit as part of their operation of the service, and therefore the residents that support Southwest Transit. And then this proposal, regardless of which scenario we kind of head down, would help to support that service long term.
So specifically then, it looks like in all 3 scenarios, the only impact to the city of Carver is transit link capacity.
Yeah,
How does that change for us?
It is a pretty, across the 3 scenarios, it is pretty consistent. So you're reading that right. I think residents would experience the benefits of like that greater transit link connectivity across the county, and as well the connections they can make to Scott County through transit link.
So what is the change? What increases? What's the transit link capacity change for Carver in those scenarios? How's that look different going forward?
Yeah, you could expect, we would describe it as adding more base hours to their service. So maybe it's adding another vehicle during their current service hours, or maybe it's hiring another driver to cover that area. And that would allow, greater capacity on the service, so that maybe today you might have to book your ride, let's say 5 days in advance, and maybe with enhanced capacity, you might be able to get your trip accepted 2 days in advance or something along those lines. So that's the type of experience improvements more capacity can bring.
With these maps, and maybe my question is really similar to Eric's, but would service in Carver just be restricted to Southwest Prime, or could folks also use Transit Link?
Yeah. Madam Mayor, the customers would be able to use both.
Okay.
Generally, I believe there's no eligibility restrictions on Transit Link. Yeah, so customers would be eligible to use both.
Thank you.
Awesome. So how are we gonna evaluate these scenarios and gather feedback? Our team is gonna be continuing to conduct some technical analysis on these scenarios, and we might ultimately end up at a solution that is a combination of some of these different features. Ultimately, part of the process of getting feedback, we might hear, part A of scenario 1 and part B of scenario 2, and we end up like bringing them together in some way. So ultimately, we'll be considering criteria like ridership, cost, operational efficiency, and community input in evaluating the scenarios. And last thing I'll leave you with here tonight is some things about the next steps for this study. We're currently, as I mentioned, in the phase 2 of engagement, and so we're going to be engaging the public through an online survey that's open through November 14th. City of Carver has already been helping us with promoting that, and you'd be welcome to share that information with your constituents as well. And we have an upcoming community meeting set, one virtual, one in person at Chanhassen Library on November 12th. And the goal there is just to gather community input on these scenarios to help us inform that final recommendation. So from there, we'll be meeting with our steering committee, which Member Pershman is on, as well as City Administrator Brent. I don't know your last name off the top of my head. Okay, thank you. And so we'll be reviewing those draft recommendations with the steering committee, and final report recommendations will then be coming together later this winter. And council input is welcome to help ensure that the recommendations meet local needs in the best way possible. So project updates are available on the Southwest Transit Project website here, and the opportunities to participate are also available there as well. So if anyone is tuning in online and would like to see more detail, this is where you can find it. And with that, I will close out. Thank you for the time tonight and for inviting us to share these updates with you as the study progresses. I'm happy to receive questions and comments tonight, as well as if you want to connect with us later through Brent, we're very happy to connect.
Great. Questions for Ella?
You mentioned very briefly that there's an expected increase in contributions from the cities that are involved in this. What does that look like?
Yeah, I think I might have misspoke in that case. There won't be expected city contributions to support this funding. This is actually the regional sales and use tax, which is a newer revenue stream that is coming to counties across the 7-county metro with funding dedicated to support transit service. So this is a county set of funding that is has to be spent on transit. So that will be supported by Carver County.
Can you go back to the slide where you talked about how you're engaging you're surveying folks? Maybe it's two back. Here we go. So are we only asking for people who are currently using Southwest Prime or other bus services for their feedback? And if so, are we missing maybe some important, some important information?
Yeah, council member, I would say that we're open to input from all residents, workers in the communities that are in Carver County. The survey is open to anyone in the public. You don't have to be a current rider. We especially, are interested in, maybe there's someone who's not riding today, but if there was more service, they'd be interested in riding transit. It just may not go where they're currently looking to travel in the community. So it is important to us to hear from non-riders as well as existing riders. The virtual focus group, we've primarily been marketing through existing Southwest Transit and Transit Link rider channels, but we've also been encouraging members of our steering committee who represent communities throughout Carver County, as well as business and community organizations, to share it with their members and their community channels. So our hope is to kind of reach a broad spectrum of input on the online survey, and that in-person community meeting, same kind of goes there, where
Sure.
we're
But
open to.
how are people finding out about the virtual focus group and the in-person community meeting? Again, is it just basically ridership, because it's coming out of the transit station? I'm just thinking, putting myself into these shoes, because I don't use mass transit, but I used to live in Hancock Township, which
Yeah.
is the least populated township in Carver County, and I'm thinking, there's some more aged folks out there. How would they learn about this? How would they know that this might be available to them, or that they might have input saying, I would like to, this would be helpful to me, this smart link, or whatever this, turns out to be. So I'm just a little bit, worried about the engagement piece, and if we're reaching everyone we should. Brent, you had something?
We have this on our city Facebook page, and
Okay.
we're gonna roll it out through our other channels, so.
Okay.
And I believe other members of the steering committee are gonna do that in their communities as well, so it's gonna do what you're asking
Okay.
it to do.
Okay, excellent. But we're getting close to November 12th, which is a really scary thing to think we're almost this far in November already, but, so it will be going out soon so that people have enough time to get on their calendars.
It was out last week.
It was out last week, okay. And we can't speak to for the steering committee about any other communities, you're not aware of when they were sending
I
anything?
don't.
I don't know.
Okay, all right,
I
thank
don't
you.
recall.
Lori?
No questions, thank you.
No additional questions. Thank you.
How, maybe, and I'm, apologies, how long will the survey be open?
Yeah, through November 14th.
Okay. So we were talking about this during our work session. Our fixed routes with Southwest Transit are gonna be going away as of the first of the year. And you mentioned that some of your polling had shown that folks want more stops on 698 coming to Carver. Like, being blunt, that's not gonna happen. Is your survey taking into account that these routes won't be here anymore? So when you say, you know, so like, if the community says we want more would have to be from that baseline of existing fixed route service, not our new normal as of January 1st.
Yeah, we have been trying to do a little bit of thinking about not only what needs are today, but also thinking about what are the needs going to be in the county in 1 year, in 5 years, and thinking through the scenarios in that light. In terms of, you know, how demand might change, specifically on Southwest Prime in the city of Carver once that fixed route service is no longer operational. You know, we haven't really done detailed projections of how that might change demand for Southwest Prime, but it's certainly something that might be useful for us to integrate into this review process for the scenarios. So I thank you for the recommendation there, and we can take that back for further study.
Great. And then I think my only other question is are we gonna see you again once the survey is done, and will you present your findings, and will we be able to kind of say, oh, that doesn't feel right for our community, or we love this and this is great?
Yeah, we would be happy to come back and share more. Our plan for the round 3 of engagement will likely be a presentation to the Carver County Commissioners, as well as Southwest Transit's Board of Directors. So we would be happy to include the City of Carver on a second round as well.
I would like that. I don't know if I'm the only one who feels that way.
Very much, yes.
So who is the decision maker on this? Is it the county board? Is it Southwest Transit? Yes to both?
Yeah, this is a partnership between those two organizations. So they will receive the recommendations of this study, and ultimately between the two of them, and ultimately Carver County is the one who holds the funding. So you can interpret there that there's going to be some decision-making power.
Sure. Okay. Awesome. That was all my questions.
I do have one more question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can you go to the slide that has the links between, I think, Norwood Young America and maybe Victoria? It was one of your scenario slides. That one.
This one?
Yeah, so one of the other things we talked about in our work session was using TransitLink to get people maybe from our station to Chanhassen or Chaska. I don't see any route like that. I see the route from Norwood to Waconia and Victoria. What about incorporating the Chaska station, the Chanhassen station in those routes? And maybe I missed that in one of our calls, but is there a discussion of doing that? Because I could see that as being helpful in taking the traffic that might have been an express bus from
Yeah.
Carver and shifting that to a transit link to get people to Chanhassen or Chaska.
Yeah. Council member, if I'm understanding your line of thought there, you're kind of thinking like circulator style service potentially. Yeah. So we haven't included that in any of these existing scenarios
Okay.
yet. But I think that as the mayor was pointing to, might be something we could continue working with City of Carver to to iterate on some of these concepts to better reflect future conditions where the fixed route service will not be operating. And, you know, something unique about the Waconia Southwest Prime Connection Zone that we're showing in this scenario is that Waconia is showing up both in our mobility and transit need analysis as well as the region's transit market areas metrics as one of the largest communities in terms of demand for transit that doesn't currently have transit service beyond dial-a-ride. So what this scenario is trying to address is creating some more connectivity between Waconia and then the existing Southwest Prime service area. Since City of Carver is already within the Southwest Prime service area, we probably wouldn't use this same strategy where we're kind of channeling Southwest Prime vehicles along a new connection route, just because riders could already access any point-to-point destination from City of Carver to the rest of the Southwest Prime service area. But I think the idea of looking into transit link circulator solutions to augment that is one that we could absolutely take into further study.
Thank you.
This, I don't know if this is self-evident, but all three of these scenarios show Carver receiving funding for Southwest Prime, which would mean the city would no longer have to budget for Southwest Prime service. Is that correct?
I would say that it would still require existing levels of funding from the City of Carver. What this recommended funding allocation from Carver County would support is an existing funding gap that exists for Southwest Transit, that currently Southwest Transit as a good partner is saying we're going to cover that cost that currently exists to provide the service in Victoria and Carver, but this would help Southwest Transit cover that existing funding gap between what the city is already providing and their cost to operate.
So just to carry that forward, a position the council could take is that they want support from these funds that the county's getting the sales and use to offset the city's costs, because Chaska and Chanhassen aren't paying that $10 to $12 or whatever it is per rider in their community. So that's the position that I would probably take from the committee on behalf of the council when I'm at those meetings. So just with support from the council, that would probably be a position play.
I feel real strongly about that. Yeah, does anybody else?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
So, let's take it a step further. Our 2026 budget isn't final yet. I think there's maybe, let's say, a 10% chance that we could pull that funding. And then if that's the case, then we would really need the support from this money. So I think we have been, this is a time of transition for transit in the city of Carver with the fixed route going away. And I think we have seen our prime, definitely see the value in it, but we have seen those expenses creep up exponentially year over year, with folks using it for exactly what it is intended for, to get places, to get to the grocery store, to get to doctor's appointments, to get downtown, you name it. But I think we also realize that Transit Link is out there as an option right now for our residents for zero budget hit. And I think that that's a conversation that we might be having. So I think you said this way more eloquently, but we would absolutely, that would be our ask, would be, we are paying for the transit that we have and that we will have starting January 6th. The city of Carver will be paying 100% for that, unlike our neighboring communities of Chanhassen and Chaska. So I think we would be looking for some relief for that, much like the other communities are getting.
Thank you, Maren. Thank you, Brent. That's helpful to hear those forward-looking concerns, thinking about budgeting, and we would be happy to, kind of continue this discussion and make sure that, we're having open dialogue between Carver County staff and Southwest Transit staff and kind of get these important decisions underway.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you can just let us know when that presentation goes to the county board, I think that's one that we all would want to make sure that we are aware of.
Great, can do.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Super. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate you
you.
coming out.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on, we don't have any public hearings this evening. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a,
Go ahead, Eric.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it
I
then.
got a motion by Councilmember Pershman and a second by Councilmember Conrad. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, business items, the long-term financial plan. Ms. Schutte.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have prepared a short slide just so we can navigate through this together. So tonight we're here to potentially adopt the 10-year financial plan that was presented at the last council meeting. This financial plan covers years 2026 through 2035. As you know, the objectives of the financial plan are revenue sufficiency and levy and rate calculations. So what are the takeaways of the plan? As you know, the long-term financial plan is not the city budget. It's more so based on certain assumptions, and it's taking a snapshot in time. And even many things have happened since we've developed this long-term financial plan. The actual results of this plan from year to year will impact the future of the long-term financial plan, whether or not we can do certain projects. What are the results of 2025? That will impact next year's plan. The long-term financial plan is a guide for the council and staff, and that allows us to pivot in response to the changes in economy, community, and unforeseen events, floods or economic upturns or downturns that will impact city services. So we use a model with Northland Securities, and staff provides information about utility customers, historic financial data and assumptions on future and growth. Revenue and expenses are projected based on set assumptions for inflation, and then the model does a few different things. It has to meet our general fund adopted fund balance policy, and we talked a little bit about that. It's 40% of next year's budgeted expenditures. It also needs to meet cash needs of the utilities funds, and that's 3 months of operating expenses, following year debt service, and capital purchases that we intend to pay with cash, and then future reserves. And when I say future reserves, I'm talking about future capital purchases and other planned events. And then we also want the model to meet whatever strategic priorities the council has set forth. I'm talking about reduced reliance on debt, maximum of 3% change in tax rate. So we try to build that into the model as much as we can, and then improved bond rating if we can. Just by doing this planning increases our, ability to improve our bond rating. So rate calculations for the tax levy. Our 10-year plan shows potential impact of plan levy on taxpayers based on current growth and other assumptions. So we take what we know about the community, what do we know about the developments that could possibly happen? When do we think they're gonna happen? Those assumptions, create the model, create the rates. But there are many external factors that impact the city's final tax rate each year, and a lot of these are outside the city's control. I'm talking about market growth, tax capacity. Some of these are set by other entities. And then finally, the city sets its annual tax levy. That is something that we have control over. Utility fees, we went over these in the work session tonight, so this is just a snapshot out of the Northland actual long-term financial packet. So we're looking at a 3% increase in the water, 5.5% in sewer user, but a $3 increase in the base rate, and no increases in the stormwater fees for this year. Development fees, we're looking at 3% increase across the board. And then utility connection charges are paid with the billing permit, as you know, and then the trunk fees are paid with the plat. And then here's just a nice slide. Tammy Amdahl with Northland Securities really talked a lot about this one. The fund balance of the general fund needs to increase each year to keep pace with the growth and expenditures. And if we're not doing that, then we're not meeting our own policy that we created. And that doesn't look good for, you know, the bond rating at all. So there is a potential that we may need to change our strategy and increase our levy year over year to meet that 40%, you know, if we're not having a good year. But this model shows you what does your 40% look like and what is the accumulation of prior year's fund balance. So just a summary, the timing of development is a significant variable in this plan, as are other assumptions. So that goes along with utility revenues. I mean, how many houses do we have? That's gonna affect a lot of different things. Specific timing and costs of future capital improvements, that's gonna impact the future tax levy, utility fees, and the reserves that we have in our capital in the long-term financial plan. So we need to continue to actively manage the funds, the capital, and all of the different areas in this plan to achieve policy goals, which include maintaining sufficient revenues. So I think with this plan, I think one great thing that we're doing as staff is we're continually monitoring the projections, the capital, the projects, and one goal that I have set for next year too is just along with Brent is starting to work on the capital planning, especially right away in like February. I mean, you get that budget, you know, you get the audit done, and now we're already planning for next year. So everything changes so rapidly, and it's never a bad thing to have a plan. And that's what we're doing. We're showing financial transparency to the residents, and we're showing them that we're planning for our future so that we don't have unexpected increases in the future like some cities with failing infrastructure that have had lower, you know, utility rates for 10, 20 years, but they, forgot to plan that, all of their stuff was going to crumble. So that is my 2 cents, and I will take questions and comments.
And even concerns, it looks like.
But I get really, really excited about this, so.
I'm glad you do.
Yeah.
I love the passion that you have for this, and I'm laughing because I'm just impressed, and it's fun to see you having fun.
Yeah.
Okay, questions, comments, or concerns, as the slide says. Kayla?
Brent, for the tens and tens of people that are watching this, as Courtney likes to say, can you explain what it means when we approve, if we vote to approve this long-term financial plan?
Sure, Councilmember Pascal, Council, what you're really approving is a guide to be used in kind of any way that you need to when you go through the annual budget process or you consider future capital. But it really serves as I would say ultimately as a starting point for staff to do additional planning work and preparing documents. And so even though there might be a capital expenditure in year 2026 or 27, there's kind of what we kind of mentioned each of the capital plans, there's kind of a spectrum of that decision making. So year 1 through 3 is kind of preparing for a budget. 5 is kind of the midpoint, and years 6 through 10 are kind of placeholders. And as you move along that continuum from year 10 all the way to year 1, the demonstration of need and justification becomes increasingly more rigorous for us to provide to the council. So I would say to kind of piggyback off of Lynn's, it's a guide for us to use to help prepare information for the council and for in a lot of ways for the city and the council to share what those plans are. But I would offer that it's a tool and a conversation starter. And even though things are in the plan and planned for, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to occur in that year. There's an example of the sanitary sewer lift station we had planned for Ironwood Park that move completely out of the plan based on that information. And as some of you are aware of, or all of you are aware of, that every year our staffing plan has had significant changes based on that. So I'm repeating myself, but again, it's a guide to be used for staff to communicate with the council and the community on anticipated needs so we can do some forecasting.
So just to kind of get the bottom line, we are not committed to anything that is in the financial plan.
100% correct. Well said.
Christie?
I don't have anything.
Lauren?
No questions.
Eric?
If I had gone first, I would have asked Councilmember Pasca's question, so we're covered.
It's a good roadmap, it's a guideline, it's helpful when residents ask those questions about like, well, when are we gonna get a community center? Well, it's not in the long-term plan, and I think a lot of folks think that when we come up with a budget that there's a dartboard in the back, and we throw like, guess we're gonna re-roof the community park shelter, you know, like, but this is our Bible, if you will, and this is what we follow to kind of figure things out. Sometimes Brent will call and be like, ooh, the pump died at a well. I'll be like, oh, is it in the plan? And he'll be like, yeah, it was in for 2026, and now we're gonna have to push that up, or, you know. But it's something that I refer back to all of the time.
Yeah.
So. There are any questions? I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2026 through 2035 long-term financial plan.
Motion by Councilmember Pershman.
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Conrad. Is that gonna wait for all of them tonight? Oh, no. Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Moving on to communications. Any city managers report?
Yeah, I just have one item. It's a unique request that we got actually late this afternoon, but it's unique enough where I'd like to get some feedback from the council. So we had a homeowners association reach out to Aaron Smith, the community development director, regarding the viability or opportunity to donate money towards a digital speed sign on a public street, which isn't something that I've been asked. And so just trying to kind of get some feedback from the council on this. I connected with the city attorney as well. You know, initially, like, my comment would be that we'd want it to be the same digital sign that we use for the rest of them, which is, I connected with Paul Schultz. It's like $6,000, which is a heavy investment. There's also, and this is kind of the land of unintended consequences, where, and take this for what it's worth, I'm a little bit anxious, but I run anxious, as most of you know, that when someone who's already paying taxes is then contributing to something that the city would typically pay for, sometimes there can be a built-in animosity that, hey, I'm paying my taxes and my HOA dues are going to pay for a sign that somebody on Spring Creek Drive didn't pay for, the city paid for that one. And so there's an element of politics within this that, and I don't know if they know that the sign costs $6,000. I do know that oftentimes when folks donate, there can be some expectations related to that and where it's placed and located, et cetera. So we don't typically like to come to you with things that are unplanned. So if you want to kind of noodle that and put it on the next agenda, we can certainly tell the HOA we're not prepared to give you an answer to that. But just wanted to kind of get it on your radar and see if there is some initial comments or direction, even if it's just to say we want to talk about it at the next work session or whatever fill in the blank feedback that you have.
Was the offer to pay the full amount or to give us $600 on
Right now, it
$6,000?
was just a message, so
Okay.
the HOA doesn't know that the cost is $6,000.
Okay. You know, my initial reaction, it makes me nervous for the reasons that it makes you nervous. But I also think, like we've learned with the speed signs that are on JCP, that those have a finite lifespan, which isn't as long as you would think, given that amount of investment. So then I worry what's gonna be the issue in 10 or 12 years, or what did we get out of those?
7 years.
7. So,
6, 7?
Oh, no, absolutely not. So I think that's where
My daughter just cringed
Oh, sorry.
somewhere.
I'm sure she's one of our tens and tens of viewers tonight. So I think that's where my head is at. I'm open to discussing it more and to hearing what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, I worry about that long-term commitment to maintain it, because we got, won't do it, we got 7 years out of the existing sign. I suspect, though, you may just want to communicate to them that this is a $6,000 sign. That may change perception.
And like, probably tell them that we got 7 years out of the ones off of Jonathan Carver Parkway. So it's about $1,000 a year investment.
Is this augmenting an existing speed sign, or would this go where a sign doesn't presently exist?
The latter. Or
Okay.
one, I mean, we haven't connected with the HOA, specifically, but the area that they're located in, there's not an existing speed sign in their association.
Is this a connector street?
No, it's just they wanna put it on Green Ash Drive, is my, well, I don't know, it's in the meadows at Spring Creek, so it's either Green Ash, Mulberry, or Birch.
Yeah. So my initial opinion is I'd rather be more open to it than not open to it, right? I think that definitely, for my opinion, scenario number one is we say, hey, we do want it to match the rest of the city signs so that we don't have a bunch of random things that get put in. And it is 6,000. Are you even still interested, right? Because maybe that just says, oh, well, it was a great, pie in the sky idea, but we can't afford that. I do, we do have them on 6th Street. The Lions have donated others. I don't initially have a big, degree of not wanting to have this or not allowing them. I just think that, I think it is something we should look a little bit farther into as council to say, what does this agreement look like? When it dies eventually, we are not on the hook for replacing it, that kind of thing. Where it goes, the right of way, do we have any engineering things that can't be by this close to a turn lane or whatever it might be? I think I'd rather look into how it could be done before I say it can't be done. But again, maybe they won't be interested at all once they hear the price. But those are kind of my stickler things is the price for them, we're not on the hook for replacing it. If there's any sort of standards that we have to follow on our side for where they're placed, and then also that we don't have to, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. I think we got it, there we go.
I agree with Councilmember Conrad. I don't think that it's something that we should shoot down out of hand. My big concern, in addition to what she said, is the expectation that it creates. This idea that once it's there, even if we've told them from the offset that they're gonna be responsible for the replacement of it in 7 years, once it's there, if they decide not to replace it in 7 years, are we gonna have created that expectation that it's still there, and now all of a sudden we're dealing with that expectation and having to manage that expectation on a city level, despite the fact that we made this agreement. People move in, people move out, people forget that 7 years ago this was a decision that was made, so. That would be my concern, is creating that expectation at that location on an ongoing basis.
We have a policy right now where we're gonna try to, as the streets get redone, add them to more collector streets. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Cause I'm just worried, like not everywhere has an association. But speed concerns are universal, I'm trying to think of an example, Mount Hope Road, do we have plans to put one in there? So,
The collects will be Mount Hope and Old Carver Road, Main Street are the locations we have left.
okay.
But, we have on the ones up by the school, they say donated by Carver Lions,
Those are going away though.
No, I
mean,
realize,
Yeah.
no, I know that, but they have a sign on there that says where they came from, right? And so, I mean, is that something that is the warning that it was
Yeah.
donated by, so that there's no confusion on where it came from?
For me, I think we need more information. And then they definitely need more information too. But like for me, I would like to know from their HOA or representatives, what they're trying to accomplish. I mean, it sounds like the problem is people going too fast, but, you know, how are they gonna use it if it's, you know, we wanna be able to show that it's that this time of day, that purple, this make model is always the one, so then they can go and say, look, we know it was this vehicle and here's how fast you were going. I don't like the optics of that, but, you know, what do they wanna use it for?
But will the use be any different than what we have on Sixth Street? Or by the school, right? It's a warning, slow down.
No, but the like purpose of those wasn't for that. Like,
What is the purpose of those then?
to make you aware. I feel like, but yeah, like I just don't want to be in a situation where it's like a really like tight neighborhood, and then this is their proof to show that, you know, like I said, you know, certain vehicle, certain time of day, make, model, like, you know, setting it up as a I gotcha. But like I said, we need more information. They need more information, and I would just like to hear from them, like, you know, what they hope to accomplish, or, you know, what's the reason for doing it. I mean, I think I know because people are going too fast, but.
Or there's the appearance that people are going too
Ooh,
fast.
yes, that's
Yeah.
right. We do, exactly.
So I guess
That's right
when
too. There's
someone
that.
wants to
There's
sit
the
out
other
there-
side of it too. It's like, oh, they really weren't going that fast. It was.
Maybe they'll have
So
neighborhood
it's-
get-togethers around the sign now, and then they can see exactly how fast
Yeah,
people drive
yep,
into the
yep.
neighborhood.
So actually, it will solve everything, 'cause then we'll know exactly how fast everyone is going.
Right.
Can I highlight the comment that Brent put in the email that I got? Also that there could be a problem with an expectation of enforcement, that sometimes putting these in creates an expectation on on our deputies that there will be increased enforcement around those signs or in those areas. Just put that out there as an additional consideration as well.
Yeah, and I think, Kayla, just to get you up to speed, not knowing where in the neighborhood they want this, a number of years ago, maybe 4 years ago, there were folks on Green Ash Drive who had speed concerns. We did a really targeted speed study in that area with deputies in marked cars and unmarked cars at different times of the day or night. And I think Brent can probably resend those results. This was like way back when, because I think Deputy Sandberg was still with us. And like the highest, even in an unmarked squad car, I think the highest clocked speed was something like 23 miles an hour. It was under 30 miles an hour. So, you know, there are a lot of, you know, issues. I think you were the one that said perception of speed, right? And if I'm standing still, a car that goes past me at 30 miles an hour looks fast. So I think, if we can share that with Kayla just to get her up to speed on that, I'd appreciate that.
You know, the HOA is gonna have to, you know, whoever the president is or the person who's representing them is gonna have to go back to the rest of the HOA, or at least their board, right? And say, we're gonna spend this money here. I think we're just really, it's like the really first step here to say, here's what the cost is, because there's an expectation from the city that it's going to match the rest of our signs. And then maybe the rest of the council feels differently. I think we just wait to hear back, like, yeah, we're still interested, or no, we're not. Because if they say, oh my gosh, that's far beyond what we thought it was gonna be, we're not interested, then the discussion's over.
Yeah, if we can get them numbers for purchase and install, figure out what that is.
Yeah, I did, thank you, council. I just wanted to be in a position where I wasn't extending the conversation. If you said no out of hand, we're not willing to consider that. So this is, and two, that you'd be okay with us requiring that the donation fund the same sign that the city uses. Cause there's any number of digital speed signs that you could go. We just don't wanna put our team in a position to manage a whole number of,
Conformity is key when it
Yeah.
comes to that.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, that's what I needed.
Okay. All right, council updates. Eric, we haven't started on your
I
end.
have no updates.
Lori,
No updates.
Christie.
The HPC meeting for next week is canceled. And then we do have the Lions Sunday brunch coming up on November 9th. So please go ahead and visit that. Veterans are free I believe first responders are free also, and children 4 and under. But it's a great meal, and there are ready-made omelets for you and all the good things. So please stop by and support the local Carver Lions Club. That's all I have.
I'll be there with an apron on, so.
And I know, and I'll be out of town. I know, I'm like, oh, it's the wrong week, but yes, I'll be out of town, so.
Yes, I'll be at the breakfast. I'll be doing whatever it is that the Lions need me to do. But that would be my communication as well. Please come to the brunch. It's a great event. We have our regular attendees, but it's always good to see new faces there too, so.
I always say if the Lions are cooking, don't miss it. Brunch is one of the, between the brunch and the pork chops, like, oh, now I'm hungry. Okay, my updates. As I had reported to you guys, following our last meeting on October 21st, I attended the county board meeting in an attempt to spread the misinformation by Commissioner Uterman about the sanitary sewer capacity in the city of Carver. My request was for the Carver County Board to address and hold him accountable whenever this information is spread. Also on the 21st, as you all remember, we had the joint council and city council and planning commission meeting with the Met Council, which was our official kickoff for the 2050 comprehensive plan. On the 23rd, the House Capital Investment Committee made their bonding tour stop in the city of Carver. In addition to Representative Bobby Harder, we had Representative Ned Carroll, Representative Fu Lee, Representative Keith Allen, Representative Mary Franson, Representative Rick Hansen, Representative John Kosnick, and Representative Leon Lilly. They were the ones who were part of the bonding committee who were on the tour, and then we also had Nate and Tara stop. We started at Church by the River, and then we kind of walked along the outside, and I wanted in my head how this was gonna go, is that we were going to stop outside the Getaway Motor Cafe. Nate and Tara were gonna tell their story, and then we were gonna kind of charge the hill and walk up the levee. Well, everybody just went into the Getaway, and because it was a Thursday, they were open at 3 in the afternoon and started ordering beverages. So, okay, we've got a little bit of a timeline to attend, but it was great. Everybody loved it. They were still able to multitask, and Tara was slinging drinks, Nate was telling the story, Tara added in kind of color commentary, and I think it was great. And then we went up on the levee, and I think it was a really good stop on the tour. So, let's see. A couple of quick follow-ups. I think Brent has forwarded to all of you guys these emails, but at our last meeting, we had Chief Walsh here, and he was talking about the intersection of County Road 11 and Big Woods Boulevard and how there had been 2 pretty serious car accidents there. You know, something happens twice, maybe it's a coincidence. I don't want to wait for it to be the 3rd time for it to be a pattern. So I reached out to Lyndon Robchant with the county to see if there was anything that we can do there. There's a stop ahead sign at both sides of Big Woods Boulevard, and then there's of course a stop sign. But my ask is even if the county can just put those flags on both of those signs to draw some kind of attention, like best case scenario would be like a flashing stop sign, but I don't think that that's in the realm of possibility with funding. But for me, it feels like the flags are a good option. So we'll see, TBD on that. And then I don't know if I have circled back a couple weeks ago. I brought in Maple Plains document that is included with their truth in taxation. We ended up inadvertently missing the deadline for that, which was also wonky because it was close of business on the same day that we adopted our preliminary levy. So it never would have worked unless we had something canned, submitted, and hoped that we went for the preliminary levy. All that's to say that we'll make sure that we don't miss the deadline next year, to try to get that in there, because I think, again, as we're trying to figure out a way to communicate with our residents and let them know where their tax money is going, I think that that's a really good option to use. And then my last thing is that there is a vote tomorrow right here in the city of Carver, where you go to vote for every other election for the operating levy for the Eastern Carver County Schools. So I assume that hours will be normal election hours from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. So make sure that if you haven't voted already, that you do so. With that, I would enter, yes.
Gonna hit that work session item, general fund.
Did we have any questions for that?
I was the one who kind of held back on that. I wanted to see the presentation that we had here and see if we had any more discussion points that we wanted to talk about, the funding of Southwest Prime as we look at our budget moving forward for 2026. Maybe we need to wait a little bit on some of the survey information that's coming back in the transit link, or maybe it's something that the council wants to talk more about tonight. I have to go back to it.
I'm not hearing a strong desire to talk about it tonight.
Okay, is it just because it's late, or we don't know?
It's not that late.
Because we're tight. Oh, it just feels late because of the time change. No,
It's actually earlier than it used to be.
right. It feels late because it's dark. That's fine, if the rest of the council feels fine. Again,
I don't have any questions because I had missed the meeting, but I will watch the recording.
Okay, I just wanted to hear this and then see if there was really anything else. I don't have anything specific, so we're good.
Now I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Pasco, second by Councilmember Sayer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Right.